Good evening, my name is Sheree Shipman and I will be doing this presentation on bicycle safety for kids. So as we know, bicycle riding is an essential developmental milestone in a child's life. It's an exciting time in a child's life. They're learning motor skills, they're learning independence, they're excited, especially if children are graduating from a bike with training wheels and they get their training wheels off. So it's a huge excitement in their life. And so that's why it's so important to educate them on the dangers of not following bicycle safety guidelines. So in this presentation, I will be going over those and in further detail. So the most important thing is when teaching a child about bicycle safety is reminding them that when they're riding their bike, they will be sharing a space with motor vehicles. They will be sharing spaces with motorcycles. They'll be sharing spaces with other, more experienced bicycle riders. So it's important to teach the child and just make them aware that, they need to be aware of their surroundings. They need to be aware of the other vehicles and bicycles and motorcycles and things that will be on the road that they will be sharing a space with. So a little bit of data that I found interesting from the Traffic Safety Administration was in the year 2019, there were approximately 850 fatalities that occurred that were bicycle and vehicle related. So as I mentioned, it's important to help the child understand they'll be sharing the road first and foremost with other, dangerous vehicles and bicycles and things like that. So one of the things that is stressed the biggest when your child is riding a bike is helmet safety. Helmet safety is huge in schools. They do a lot of presentations about the dangers of not wearing a helmet, and they also go over a lot of, I wouldn't say graphic material, but they don't candy coat it. They tell these children, okay, this is what could happen. You can get, you know, a traumatic brain injury, if you survive, because unfortunately the odds of a child not wearing a helmet and death are greater than that of those children that wear a helmet. So they go into a lot of detail on, the importance of wearing a helmet and, trying to help the child recognize and understand and be aware of any type of guidelines or bicycle safety riding rules. So the negative impact with a child not following safety rules is obviously a fatality or death. Many children get hit by cars, mainly, and they suffer from traumatic brain injuries specifically, especially when they're not wearing a helmet. Some data is there is a 70% chance of a head injury if you're not wearing a helmet. So that's a huge percentage. So when you're speaking to a child, it's, specifically about wearing a helmet, you have to be very straightforward with a child, and you just have to not necessarily be graphic, but you do have to show them visually, and you do have to explain in very, very detailed manner of what could occur if they're not following bicycle safety rules. So it's important to start off with letting them know, okay, you're going to be out riding your bike. If they're old enough to be with their friends, you may want to say, or they're riding their bike to school, have them wear brightly colored clothes. There's reflective vests that I've seen in my neighborhood of children. They wear the reflective vests when they're riding their bike. You want to remind them, okay, when you're riding your bike to school or wherever you're riding your bike, if you're out playing, look for crosswalks specifically. You know, if you can use the crosswalks, stress to use those crosswalks. You also want to stress if they don't use a crosswalk and they're crossing, even if they are using a crosswalk, to make sure that you know you are maintaining eye contact with that driver. So you want to have eye contact to make sure that you know that they see you crossing that street. And as I mentioned, you want to remind the children to use marked crosswalks anytime they see them, as opposed to just crossing the street on their own. Another huge thing is to remind children to always keep their hands on the handlebars. I know I've seen kids do it. My own daughter does it. She'll ride her bike and she'll say, hey, look at me. I don't have my hands. I can ride my bike with no hands on my handlebars. And, you know, it's dangerous, and you have to remind them to keep their hands on their handlebars at all times. Specifically with nowadays with cell phones, you know, keep your cell phone in your backpack, keep your cell phone in your pocket. It's kind of comparable of driving a car with a cell phone. You want to have your eyes on the road at all times, you know, and because you're more vulnerable, you don't have the protection of a car. You're more open, obviously, in the air because you're riding a bike. So you don't have that metal surrounding you to protect you. So it's important also to teach your kids hand signals. You know, they have a right and a left hand signal when you're making a right hand turn and then a left hand turn. And it's important to teach your children, you know, on the dangers of riding your bike at night. If it has to happen, which you should kind of stress not to let that happen, because, you know, they're more vulnerable at night. But if in fact they do, there are reflectors for tires, there's reflective tape, there's plastic reflectors that you can put on either side, or the front and the back tires. I know here in Arizona it is a law that you have to have reflectors on your tires during the day and at night. So as I mentioned with the helmets, it's important to take your child out and have a helmet specifically fitted for them. You don't ever want to pick up a package at the local Walmart and go, okay, this is good. You always want to be taking that thing out of the package, fitting it on the child's head. You want to make sure that that head is covered from front to back, forehead, everything has to be covered. Another main thing is to make sure that the straps are tightly fastened around the chin and there's no shaking going on with the helmet, and you can't put any finger, I mean, you want to have some space in between the straps, but you want to make sure that it's not on there loosely. You also want to ensure that the helmet is approved from the Product Safety Commission, and I believe the Product Safety Commission are the same people that make sure that car seats are safe before they sell them, you know, on the market. So some resources I found a lot of resources online for parents, for caregivers, for children. There's these three that I found here. Always Wear a Helmet is a good one. It's on YouTube. It explains in detail what could happen when you're not wearing your helmet, and it's on a level that children can understand. There's Connecting Kids with Helmets Project. This one's more of a caregiver video. And then there's one that was based out of Canada, which I thought was a good one, that kind of was very short and to the point. And that one's mainly for caregivers and parents. So it's, as I mentioned, it's important for parents to teach their children to attend any kind of educational programs They usually will have a in-service at schools. I notice that a lot. They do that at my daughter's school. They do presentations. They have usually like police officers and firefighters will come to the school and do, education, helmet education, bike safety. They show you how to put your reflectors on. They show you how to measure your helmet and things like that. And another good one, another resource that I found that's very helpful and has a lot of information is the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. So this is kind of a umbrella of the smaller, like local, like DMVs and transportations. Like here in Arizona, we have AZ. The National Highway is kind of an overseer of all those smaller, like DMVs. There's also the Bicycle Helmet Safety Institute, and this one was a good resource because it shows you different types of helmets. It goes over how they should fit, all like the misconceptions about helmets, myths about helmets. I mean, you name it, it's on here. It's a wonderful resource. The American Academy of Pediatrics was also a good one. It has a lot of good information for mainly caregivers. It goes over a lot of the safety rules that I had mentioned with like the hand signals, crosswalk safety, looking at the driver when you're crossing the street to make sure that you're maintaining that eye contact so they know you're there. Another good resource was Kids Health. And this one is a good one to watch together with a caregiver or parent with the child. And it goes into a lot of good detail about, helmet safety and things like that. It also, on this Kids Health, there's also a lot of different resources they have on their website alone, links and videos and things that caregivers and parents can watch. And that concludes my slideshow, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. Thank you.